This is just some asshole that like is friends with Jared Kushner.
Yes.
And got a job in the administration.
Yeah, Mike Pompeo should make him walk his dog, right?
I'm here for it. Make them all walk Mike Pompeo's dog. That dog's
Yeah.
gonna be so healthy.
Realpolitik is politics that are coercive, immoral, or Machiavellian.
Mr. McCarthy, you've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir?
Begins with one word, realpolitik.
Welcome to Realpolitik. I'm your host, Paul Holden, with my good friend Chris on the line. Chris, thanks for joining
Chris
us.
the plumber, please use me by my full name.
Chris the plumber. I apologize, the full name. Chris is our most prestigious NSA and illegal wiretapping correspondent, so we appreciate you being here today to share your knowledge.
Always glad to be here to take down the deep state.
Oh, it's going down today. So, topics for today, I don't know if a lot of people heard, but a few days ago, the Patriot Act was just renewed. It had expired in April, and then in May, everyone was like, oh shit, we just stopped allowing the government to wiretap on mass amounts of Americans. Let's spin that back up.
We forgot to renew spying on millions of Americans and looking into everything they're doing. We forgot to do that.
I feel like people have not been talking about coronavirus's impact on the deep state intelligence agency. You know what I mean? It's really been hard for them. There was a whole
hard.
month.
It's hard.
Whole
Which
month.
is surprising considering that everyone is using the internet. So I'd imagine they would be getting some of the best data that they've ever gotten. So
Yeah, you would think so.
you need to renew that, right?
You gotta renew it. This is primo time. You want to know what people are thinking? It's all happening right now.
My FBI agent has to know my porn habits, right?
Oh, he's got it. He's got it. Later, we will be getting into the IG removal by President Donald Trump. So, starting with the abuse of the executive branch's power, and then following it up with a little dash of the eradication of oversight of said branch.
Who needs oversight, dude?
Who needs it, man? Not Trump.
Yeah, no one needs oversight.
He doesn't need that shit.
For pansies. Oversight.
Well, who does need oversight? The American people, apparently. So, Big Brother watching. I thought, real quick though, quick TLDR history of Patriot Act for, people who may not be pros at what this is, just
who don't know what the Patriot Act is.
Simple Pat, Patriot Act, rundown. So the Patriot Act was originally signed by the Bush administration in 2001. It was after 9/11, and it was to prevent any further terrorist attacks from happening on American soil. The idea is that we give up privacy in exchange for increased security. At the time,
didn't somebody have a quote about that?
Was it Mr. Benjamin Franklin?
Was it?
I don't know.
I don't know. Who's Franklin, dude? Who cares about Ben Franklin? He's not important.
Old son of a bitch, man. And he was an atheist, so fuck him, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Un-American.
Always, dude.
Un-American.
And he was fat.
And he was fat. And, well, he loved prostitutes, but I don't know if, I feel like most
I'm not going to hate on anyone for that.
Yeah, that's just, that's what they do. It's what they do.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
Donald Trump's more of a porn star guy, but
love them French broads, dude.
You gotta love them. So the Patriot Act signed in 2001, and it gave us some really amazing policy, like indefinite detention of immigrants without charges. Ton of fun.
Good stuff.
Allowing law enforcement to search homes and businesses without the owner's consent or knowledge.
Really?
Great. Yeah.
Good stuff.
FBI was allowed to search telephone, email, and financial records without a court order. So just kind of going for it.
As one does. I mean, you need all these things, especially with domestic surveillance, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, forget about the foreign surveillance. Like, we need to get folks here in our own country. We need to make sure American citizens are being jailed.
Oh, 100%. You have to. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing? What are
we doing?
What do we think? We're in the land of the free?
Come on.
Come on. Rule of law?
This wonderful bill was set to expire in 2005, right? So give us a couple years of just keeping eyes on every American citizen. And then Congress was like, fuck that, and then just keeps reauthorizing it. It was reauthorized in '05. It was then reauthorized for 4 more years in 2011 by Mr. President Barack Obama.
You mean to tell me that both Democrats and Republicans have been passing extensions of the Patriot Act?
It's shocking.
It's shocking.
It's shocking.
I'm literally shocked.
Yeah, this thing that was meant as a response post 2011. I'm sorry, post 9/11. We just kind of keep rolling with it. And the great thing about Obama's Patriot Act extension was that it also included roving wiretaps of millions of Americans, searching business records, and also extended to lone wolf surveillance. So spying on people who have no known connections to, say, an Al-Qaeda, and just generally looking for the Unabomber, but in the whole American 350 million population.
Just a quick, what, who, what, why do we care about the Unabomber?
Yeah, so the Unabomber, it wasn't to find the Unabomber, it was to find a Unabomber type person.
I see.
He was an individual.
He's the mold, right?
He's what we are scared of, right? So he was a guy that was holed up in Montana, and just started shipping bombs across the United States.
Wasn't he completely off the grid though?
Oh yeah, he built his own cabin.
So why would the FBI and the NSA need access to people's search histories, phone logs, and things of that nature?
The idea being that, not all lone wolves would necessarily be off the grid. It could just be kind of a crazy person who's searching how to make a pipe bomb. Right. So
the guy looking up the Anarchist Cookbook, definitely on some red flag lists, right?
I'm so fucked. I am fucked.
Yeah, listen. If you weren't already on the list, if you're looking up the Anarchist Cookbook, you're top of the list now.
I've been on the list for like 15 years.
Yeah. So. I was gonna say, it seemed like that was such a middle school, high school thing. Like, oh man, look at this! I just know how to make napalm now.
I mean, I blame Fight Club for getting me interested in these things when I was 14. So really, it's Chuck Palahniuk's fault.
It's upsetting because a lot of that stuff is based off of like pre-internet ideas. So they'll have like things on like how to like hack into a phone system dial-up. And it's like, it doesn't even make sense anymore. Like, are you on a landline? And it's like, I haven't had a landline in probably 2 decades now.
It's like watching season 1 of The Wire.
Oh, dude.
You're like, don't pictures. Even. That's fun.
Payphones?
What?
You're wiretapping payphones?
You got to have a guy with binoculars staring at a payphone all day?
Oh,
that's
awful.
Weird.
Where's your satellite, dude?
It's also so cute because now they can just wiretap anyone for no reason. And before it was like, oh, I gotta get a warrant. I have to have eyes on the payphone. I gotta do like all these things.
Yeah, you used to have to like do things to spy on people. Now you don't really have to do anything.
There used to be like a hurdle or two, and now they just have triggers set up for anyone who searches a particular thing, and there's really no oversight over what those things are.
Well, the FISA court exists, right? That's a hurdle. Oh wait,
a nice little stamp.
Oh wait,
it's great. So, as people may know, Edward Snowden, back in the day, I believe it was 2013.
Snowden.
The GOAT. He leaked a ton of information about the NSA wiretapping millions and millions of Americans and just collecting everyone's data.
A patriot, you would say, right?
Some would say patriot. According to the Obama and Trump administration, he's more of a traitor. And he is currently evading U.S. law and just chilling in Russia, dude. Putin's just giving him a nice little house. And I think he's working for like the Russian Facebook now or something.
The Russian Facebook?
Yeah, just kind of.
God, that's got to be a horrifying place. Like, you think American Facebook is bad? Russian Facebook has to be horrifying.
I also feel a little bad for him because he was trying to take down the police state, and he kind of had to go somewhere that is an even worse police state.
Is ultra police state?
Yeah, it's like, oh wow,
You got American deep state taking notes from Putin's Russia.
it's kind of gnarly. So it's like, oh, like if the U.S. is doing these terrible things, and then he has to go to Russia. That's even worse.
Yeah,
and
just
also
awful.
just very blatant about it. So afterwards, an amendment was passed in 2015 that does not allow the NSA to continue to collect everyone's phone data for no reason, but instead the rule was that phone companies had to save the data and the NSA could get access to it whenever they wanted. So basically just said the NSA won't store the information, but they still have complete access to it. So nothing really changed.
So you just have phone companies with, I mean, it has to be millions upon millions of gigabytes of data that they just have to hold indefinitely.
They just sit on it.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great. Well, and the thing is that data storage is relatively cheap nowadays. I mean, my Xbox has a terabyte of storage on it.
Dude, it's incredible to think about because we would get like 8 gigs or something and we'd be like, I'm never going to fill this up.
Yeah, and now one video game is like 100 gigs.
Yeah, right.
But storing, phone records is relatively low data usage, right? It's,
right.
Who called who when. They're not
Yeah.
actually recording the conversations, these phone
Right.
companies.
How about on text messages?
Yeah, that's an
Do
interesting
you
one.
know?
I'm not sure.
I imagine, a text sent, unless you do it through some kind of app like, what's the big WhatsApp
WhatsApp
or something like that, where there's some kind of end-to-end encryption. I imagine just a regular cellular text could be read, no problem. They were doing it on the wire, right?
Yeah, I think that they could be intercepted. I don't think that the information of what a text is actually stored. So you can see that there was a text sent from X number to Y number, but you can't read
Right,
that
at this
message,
time.
right now. So I think honestly it's more dangerous to use WhatsApp than it, because the government currently cannot hack into an iPhone, which has been a big deal. And the Trump administration was trying to force Apple into creating a backdoor for them, essentially updating all iOSs so that the FBI has a little code that they can type in and get access to all of your phone data. And Apple, God bless them, wouldn't do it.
Well, here's something that I thought was pretty interesting. Did you see the new update on Apple?
I have not, no.
They are doing something, I don't know the specifics of it, but if you're within range of another Apple phone, it will kind of connect, like it'll ping off of each other, and that's how they're going to do coronavirus tracking.
So good.
So
So
I was
fun.
just like, well, this kind of seems to me like a way to get around, not directly giving FBI information, right?
Yeah.
Which iPhones are next to each other. And then we're just going to give this data to, the CDC or something. But where does that data go?
And if you look at how the Patriot Act has kind of shifted in scope and had a bit of, a lot of mission creep, I would say, and just been expanded upon, I think it is a bit of a dangerous precedent to set to give the government the power to have access to who you've been around, right?
Right.
I could very easily see that being abused, just like wiretapping all of America has been abused. So that's a bit terrifying, and now I kind of want to smash my iPhone. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
Great. So great. So May 13 comes 2020, and Congress has not passed a new extension. So they're like, oh, we should probably do that. And they voted to reinstate it and to give the FBI and CIA the ability to spy on American citizen browser history without a warrant. So that's cool.
So this means that we're going to see a giant increase in VPN purchases, huh?
Oh yeah.
I need to get one for
Yeah.
sure.
No, it's
Not that I'm looking
it's
at
bad.
anything bad or illegal, but at the same time, I don't want my FBI agent to know exactly what I'm looking at.
Well, and if you think about it, it's much worse than the wiretapping of American citizens because at this point in time, who are you calling, right? Probably calling like maybe a buddy, your wife,
My
your mom
mom,
and dad.
calling my mom
That's it.
occasionally.
Yeah, you can't get much information from that.
But a person's browser history, holy crap.
You know their political ideology, you know their beliefs, their interests, everything that we do and think feeds through Google.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible, right?
Yeah, Google's trying to make assistants based off of your browser history because they can tell so much about how your brain thinks based off of what you're clicking on, what you're searching, how you're searching it, the language that you're using, and your general reaction times to things that you see on a website. They can almost create a carbon copy of your brain based off of how you're interacting with your surroundings, which can be distilled through your computer, right? Especially in the time of quarantine. And the government now has access to all this information without a warrant.
What kind of signature do you think they have on folks? You know, like what kind of psychological profile do folks have that actually ask Google questions? So
What do you mean?
they in the search browser they'll be like, "How do I do this thing?" Question mark.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? Like, there's got to be some level of insanity, right?
Wait, sorry, can you rephrase that? I'm lost.
You know, folks that like actually, instead of like just using the keywords in your search, you would be like, "How do I take my shoes off?" Question mark to Google. Those people are insane, I think.
Well, I feel like those people are boomers.
And then your FBI agents immediately like, "We don't need to follow this person." They're asking Google actual questions.
They are people who first got on the internet and tried Ask Jeeves and thought that's how the rest of the internet works.
Ask Jeeves, dude. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Throwback.
Type in a question and he'll answer it for you. Yay!
Jeeves.
Oh, Google's the
He's like
same.
my own personal internet butler.
It's so cute.
Was that a common job of butlers back in the day to answer questions for their masters? Kind of like
I don't
a
know,
dictionary,
but
or a
I would love for that to be a
encyclopedia.
thing. Yeah, they're sitting there with a with an encyclopedia constantly and be like, Jeeves, go find this for me whenever you're like debating with your friends about something dumb.
Jeeves, how do I make the proletariat work for me, please?
And then he has to go research the massive mahogany shelved library
Right, exactly.
for the answers and then come back to you with
Coming
a
up,
report.
boss. Here's a quick search for you. The proletariat is getting rowdy. We need some bread and circuses. What works best for these new crop of proles?
Every single one of his responses is higher than Pinkerton's.
Yeah. Pinkerton Agency seems to be pretty good, boss.
Oh, yeah, they're doing great work down at the coal mines, boss.
Those Pinkertons, they'll break up a proletariat revolt, no problem.
Yeah, for Simple Pat out there, the Pinkertons was a private security agency / detective agency / private militia that would engage in a lot of union busting.
What
Just roll
happened
up
to
with-
the Pinkertons? Like, surely they didn't just disappear. They must have just changed the name, right?
They may have just changed the name, or they may have faded into non-existence after a number of other, private militias came into play.
Right.
especially
Your
nowadays.
Blackwaters and things like that became a little bit more prevalent.
Your Silver Corps USAs down in Florida that tried to overthrow the Venezuelan government.
Yeah,
There's
they're
a lot of
like, this
options.
whole pretending to be detectives, we don't really need to do anymore. Let's just hire ex-soldiers and just go kill people.
Yeah, super fun byproduct of the military-industrial complex is we have so many soldiers and so many guns and so many military helicopters that we need someone else to sell them to sometimes because the U.S. military can't handle the load. So
You know who will sell you a gun and helicopter and tank for cheap is ex-Soviet generals and like the Ukraine
fun.
and the Balkans and stuff like that. So been thinking about going over there, try to get a tank.
picking up a tank. It's a home defense tank. Everyone's got to have one in their garage.
Home defense tank. I keep it out on the front. Put a little AI in it. I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
And just be like, just go ahead and take care of any bogeys, as we like to call them.
I mean, yeah, you just put a sign out front that says "Beware of tank."
Beware.
And I think legally you're protected.
Beware of tank. Will shoot on site. AI technology.
It's wonderful. So this fantastic Patriot Act that allows the government to spy on everything that you're doing online was passed overwhelmingly in the House and Senate, which is a ton of fun. So I did a little Google searching. It took a minute. I had to actually dig through government websites because no one is reporting on this for some reason. And
you mean the media is failing to inform us on something?
I know, it's weird, right? You would think that the whole extending this to private browsing histories would be a bigger deal, especially after the Snowden leaks, but I guess just no one cares anymore.
When I looked it up, the first thing was like Ars Technica, and I was like, oh my God, nobody is discussing this.
Yeah, no one's talking about it. It was bringing up a lot of searches from, the kind of mainstream media sites from like 2015, 2019. No one's talking about the 2020.
Huh. I guess the mainstream media kind of sucks, huh, Paul Holden?
They can suck quite a bit. I would agree with you on that. So total yays, percentage-wise for Democrats, 65% of elected Democrats in Congress voted for it, and 69% of Republicans.
You mean
yay.
Democrats can do bad things?
It appears so.
I don't know. That just doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, well, there was a bipartisan attempt in the Senate to make an amendment that banned the search of private browsing history and collection of mass data, and it failed. 59 votes. It needed 60, and Bernie Sanders was strangely missing.
He walked on the vote. I thought that was really strange.
He was not there. And he has not really given a reason for why he was not there. Lamar Alexander was also not there, a senator from Tennessee.
Yeah, but he's useless now.
He is very useless.
He was useless before, but he's especially useless now, considering he's a lame duck.
He is a lame duck. I think that he probably could have, swung the vote, but he stayed home instead, so that's cool.
I really want to know what the hell Bernie's deal was.
I don't know, and he has not said. And no one's asking him, really, because nobody is reporting on this.
Right. It's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle. No one reports on it. Nobody asks a question to the progressive senator. And, this is just, dude, it's so frustrating. Like, the world has become so frustrating at every point. And that, we have to deal with the hashtag resistance, talking about the authoritarian nature, the Nazism, fascism of the Trump administration. And then what do? They authorize him to have more power than he had before. The executive branch is who does this.
Yeah. It is the FBI, it's the NSA, it is the CIA who are doing this, and they all report to Donald Trump.
Trump appoints these people, right?
His power, right?
And they're like, listen, we tried to impeach you and everything, and, we're really frustrated about what you've been doing with the executive branch, but here, please, have some more power.
What drives me insane, too, is that there is so much uproar over Trump's IG firings, which we'll get to in a minute. And he's firing, the Department of Transportation IG, which, provides oversight into it, the State Department IG, the Health and Human Services IG. And everyone's freaking out like, oh, wow, he fired this guy. And no one gives a shit that Democrats are expanding his power to spy on the American people. Like, are we serious right now? Where is the calibration for this uproar?
Well, what I think it is that this is the inside baseball, right? We did it for Bush. We did it for Obama. We did it for Trump. We'll do it for Biden. You know what I mean? This is the handshake, right? This is the Democrats and the Republicans both working for elite power interests. That's what this is.
Well, it's a ton of fun either way, but it's great news. And I think the other big piece of it is that it is only a conspiracy if it's hidden. So I think that's why when Snowden leaked it, it was all over the news and everyone was talking about it. It's because no one knew about it. But now, since Snowden's leaks and a lot of investigative journalism into it, it's just assumed that the government's going to be doing this. So no one cares anymore. If you do it in the open, I think that's something that Trump has shown too, is that if you do things in the open and it is corrupt, nobody cares.
It's kind of like
say it out loud.
It's kind of like the Panama Papers, right? We find out that elites are stealing trillions. I think it was something like $20 trillion from taxpayers on these offshore bank accounts, and there's no follow-up. Like, that $21 trillion wipes out the American deficit. Of course, it's global, right? But just to kind of put that into some kind of, cognition, right? That there's so much money being stolen from the people of the world that it would just completely wipe out American debt.
And we have a lot of debt.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, that's the thing. We have the most billionaires per capita.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of that is American money. But, Chinese and Russians and, everyone, the UK, dude, the UK had a ton of people on that list. I think David Cameron, the former prime minister, him and his dad were on that list.
Yeah.
He's the prime minister, dude. Stealing taxpayer dollars.
And the story dies.
Right?
It does.
We don't need to talk about this. This doesn't
What's
need
the
to
priority,
be discussed.
Right? What's our priority?
We're stealing taxpayer dollars. We're surveilling the whole entire world and breaking into your privacy, and yeah, these things don't need to be discussed. We got to look at the monkey man in the White House. That's what we have to care about. Monkey man, little clown boy, Fat Donnie. Let's look at that for a while.
Yeah, it's the media. I think the biggest problem with our media currently is that it is ran by corporations. I mean, the guy who made Fox News said we're not a news organization, we're a media company, right?
Well, it's propaganda.
That's what they do.
They're propaganda machines.
Because it makes them money. What do people want to hear about? Something that's going to get them outraged about Trump. What's the dumbest thing that he said today? Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about the expansion of his powers, right?
Right, exactly.
That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
Well, because the expansion of the powers are going to help the Democrats eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mentality.
Yeah, it's all how does this go back? And that's what's kind of funny about Trump is that he doesn't have the ability to think like that normally, where he was, calling for Barack Obama to have to testify in front of the Senate in regards to Watergate Obamagate and Michael Flynn. And Lindsey Graham's response to that, because Trump was tweeting at Lindsey Graham saying, "Call Obama, why aren't you doing this?" Lindsey Graham said, "Be careful what you wish for."
Yeah, because they'll call you.
They'll call you.
They
you
don't
set this precedent, you'll be called.
That's exactly right, dude. They don't want to set precedents. That's why the Democrats don't expand Medicare. That's why the Democrats don't want to do some kind of, universal basic income right now. Because you don't want to set the precedent. If you do it now, folks are going to expect it later.
And who do they answer to, I think, is the ultimate question as well. I mean, if you look at, the expansion of Medicare versus the expansion of Crowborough that we talked about 2 eps ago, they are answering to the insurance companies, right?
Right.
They're answering to the lobbyists. They're answering to the people that fund all of their campaigns, both for the DNC and down ballot, because that's how they win. That's what it's about. It's about winning. It's not about what's best for the American people. And how can you go about doing that in the best way? You pass policies that make these corporations happy. And you play act like you're helping the people.
Well,
right?
and for most corporations, they give to both parties, so they win whoever wins.
Yeah.
You know, most of these Democrats bought by special interests. Most of these Republicans bought by special interests. There may be a little difference, right? Home Depot gives their money to Republicans. Lowe's gives their money to Democrats. But guess what? It's a big box store with tools. Like that's what we're dealing with here, right? It's
in the end, it evens out.
It
I mean,
evens
look
out.
at the percent of money that these industries are giving. It's like 49% Democrat, 51% Republican.
Right.
It's almost identical.
Right, exactly. And so it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters to either party. How much money can you bring in? How much money can you bring in? Because we need to buy television ads and radio spots. Like this, there's no on the ground organizing, right? There's no trying to help folks with their everyday lives. It's just, let's just blast them with propaganda. Let's make sure we're stealing their data. There's no on the ground face-to-face interaction. I mean, of course, right now with Corona, there's almost none, right? But it wasn't like there was a whole lot before this. You know, you got your Bernies, right? They were probably going door to door, but Joe Biden didn't have a ground campaign at all.
Joe Biden barely had a campaign.
You know, they had some ads that they ran in Iowa and some other places, right? Maybe some digital. But I don't even think they were making phone calls, right? There was no phone banking.
The stories coming out of the Biden campaign in Iowa right before the primary were hilarious. It was like defunct ex-politicians and like people that had tried to run for like a city council seat like 8 states away were running offices in districts that they had never been to before, and they had 0 staff. It was basically just like a show. It was like, hey, do you want a job? We'll put you up here, and you won't actually do anything. And that was his ground game.
Like,
it was great.
Can you imagine even having to go to Iowa for a couple months? It sounds awful.
I hear Des Moines is very nice. But to pull this back into the executive branch, so all these powers have now been extended, right? Voted for by both Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats who say that he's an authoritarian, yet they're giving him authoritarian power, which is an interesting dichotomy there. But
bold
what
move,
Trump is
Cotton.
also doing,
Bold move.
bold move, bold move. What Trump is also doing is removing inspectors general from his
Good
administration.
use of the plural, dude. You've been doing a little studying, haven't you?
I've done a little studying. It's not inspector generals, it's inspectors general if you're using the plural of the term.
You know, that was one that I think I learned like last year. I said like inspector generals to like a group of people, and they're like, you idiot.
You jackass. That's how you can tell if someone doesn't know what they're talking about. Is
Inspectors general, please.
Inspectors general. So, if you are not familiar with inspectors general, I should say, it was a system set up after Watergate and all the corruptions that came out about Nixon, which it now pale in comparison to what presidents do. But, you know, back in the day, it was a big deal. And they were independent auditors of the executive branch. So they were hired by the executive branch, but it was almost like a what's the police thing, like IA or whatever.
Yeah, internal affairs.
Yeah, it's like an internal affairs network, right? So they are supposed to be independent. They're supposed to be free from partisanship, and they basically just make sure that the executive branch is doing what it's supposed to be doing. There's also a system in place for whistleblowers, so they can reach out to inspector generals with reports. The IG says whether or not it's valid, and if it is valid, then they have to send it to Congress, and the Congress reviews it. That's essentially how we got the impeachment scandal, is because a report was filed with an IG who said that, yes, this is of legitimate concern, and Congress should be notified about it. It's not saying whether or not, it's 100% true or it's impeachable or anything like that. It's essentially just saying, yeah, this is like a real thing that someone's worried about, and they're valid to be worried about it. Trump's just kind of started removing these guys, which is kind of fun.
Just firing them, dude.
Just firing them.
Just firing them. I don't need this guy. Why do I need this guy?
Why would I need this guy here? It's kind of classic Trumpian move. The man comes from running a rather, corrupt company where he demands loyalty above all else. So he would not necessarily like having someone in his chain of command that is actively inspecting him or those he considers loyal to him. So I don't think this is actually outside of, what anyone should expect from Donald Trump, and it's not necessarily very shocking. But he's fired the state IG, the Department of Transportation IG, the Health and Human Services IG, the Intelligence Community IG, and the Defense Department IG.
Good God.
He's kind of just crushing it right now.
Are there any inspectors generals left?
There's a couple left.
Are there any left? Sounds like he got rid of all of them.
He's getting rid of all the important ones, which is great. So, and it's every single one is in a response to them investigating one of his people. So, the state IG was investigating Mike Pompeo for, number one, misusing political appointees to run errands.
That, dude, classic, right? It always seems like that's such, you always hear about like college presidents doing that. Like, they'll some kind of admin or something had to go to their lake house and wash their windows and mow their lawns. And it's just like, you buttholes have the money to pay for this stuff.
Yeah. But they just want to make other
Go get my
people
laundry for me, douche.
The best one was walking his dog. He was making
That's exactly right. That's it. That's like $10 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And
they have apps for that.
Making somebody who's getting paid like $80K a year go walk his dog.
Yeah. It's so good. And the thing about that one is it doesn't really bother me because they're political appointees.
Right.
So I'm like, this is just some asshole that like is friends with Jared Kushner.
Yes.
And got a job in the administration.
Yeah. Mike Pompeo should make him walk his dog, right?
I'm here for it. Make them all walk Mike Pompeo's dog. That dog's going to be so healthy.
Yeah. Any friend of Jared Kushner has never had to like do any manual labor. I'm all right with Pompeo making them do it.
It's like fuck you. They do nothing to earn these positions. That's why they call them political appointees, right? They are just wheeling and dealing, getting something nice. It's like the old mob bosses, right? You give your friend's son's buddy a job at the union doing completely nothing. You're getting paid $55K a year to just sit on your ass and say that you were, checking something out.
Godfather 2, right?
Godfather 2.
That's how he lost his first grocer job.
Yeah. It's basic mob mentality, and it's also how the government runs normally outside of Donald Trump. So that's great. That's fun.
Well, and isn't that what this whole thing is about? Is that this is the bastardized version of how it runs, right? This is how the government runs on crack. But it's still fundamentally over time how it runs. And who is supposed to be the oversight of the executive branch? Congress.
Congress and the courts, checks and balances.
Congress is supposed to be the oversight, so that all Congress has done, probably before Nixon, has been give up power. So much so that they've allowed the executive branch to oversee itself. That's insane. That's insane. That's getting rid of like the EPA or something, the Environmental Protection Agency, and being like, we're just going to let oil companies, chemical companies, just watch themselves. They'll be okay. They're not going to dump stuff. They're not going to do things super cheaply and pollute, right? That doesn't sound like something Dow Chemical would do. Oops, actually there's flooding in Michigan right now, and their retention ponds are overflowing, and now there's going to be, thousands of metric gallons of awful by-waste product going into rivers and land around Michigan. But let's let them oversee themselves.
It's totally fine. It's fine.
That's fine.
And
That's good.
the other thing to point out about this IG removal thing is that this is not specific to Donald Trump either, right? When you allow an executive branch to be in charge of the people who are overseeing the executive branch, some gnarly things happen. So the Reagan administration fired all of the IGs that were hired by the previous president, Jimmy Carter, day one of his administration, right? It was like a super fast
That was a
turn.
day one thing?
Day one. Day one, he just fired them all, and then some were rehired after Congress got really pissed off. But he just went for it, right? Obama fired the Inspector General of the Corporation for National and Community Service, which was a big uproar too because he was looking into a friend of the Obamas, right? And the CNCS IG was also fired by Trump, so I guess it's just a really hard position to have.
What the heck does this community corporation thing do? I saw it in your show notes, and I was like, this sounds like a sketchy office.
I haven't dug into it a ton, but it's a little weird, and I don't really know what it's doing.
Anytime I see like community corporation or community development corp or something like that, I immediately get suspicious.
It's a little weird. It's probably something to dig into more, but it's a very popular post to fire IG from.
You got to get rid of them
think
first thing. That's
bad.
that's all we know, which definitely enhances the sketchy nature of what these people are doing, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I do apologize. The CNCS IG was not fired by Trump. It was fired by Bush, he had a forced resignation. And I actually found a really fun little article. It was an op-ed piece, and it said the dismissals of the IGs suggest that the administration may view IG posts as little more than an opportunity to reward the Republican faithful. Although its IG appointments have been sterling, most notably in the case of this particular IG, the administration seems to believe that IGs are just one in a long list of positions that can be emptied at will. This op-ed was not in reference to Trump. It was in reference to George W. Bush, who forced the resignation of the NASA IG and CNCS IG. So this is not something that only Trump does. This is what the executive branch does to limit regulation of its activities.
Yeah,
It's relatively common.
Trump's just done it on steroids, right? He's just like, what if I get rid of everyone?
He does it blatantly, right? It's more like, the Obama administration did it, relatively low key, and there was some uproar about it, so he didn't do it again. Bush didn't want to fire them, so he forced their resignation. Trump just says, fuck it. He has no shame. It's like, you're investigating Mike Pompeo, fired. You're the guy who pushed the impeachment report to Congress, fired. The DOT IG was investigating whether Kentucky was getting favoritism from the Department of Transportation, essentially getting a ton of extra grants, and no one really could give a reason why.
Other than Elaine Chao is married to Mitch McConnell.
Exactly.
Maybe that was very good. That makes me kind of miss the old Cocaine Mitch days.
Oh, they were good days.
Dude,
They
Cocaine
were good days.
Mitch, Moscow Mitch. That guy needs to go.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
That guy needs to go. He's awful.
Yeah. So, Elaine Chao is the Secretary of Transportation, right? So she runs the department. McConnell, obviously the senator from Kentucky who runs the Senate. And for some reason, their state was just getting a ton of money that other states weren't getting. And once someone started investigating this, he was fired for it. So that's great. Draining the swamp.
Swamp drained.
Swamp officially drained. Christy Grimm, Health and Human Services IG, had a report that was critical of Trump. The best part about this is that Trump didn't even know about the report. He was asked about it in a news conference, or one of his press conferences, right? And he started saying, "Who's the IG? Find him for me. Find him for me." Telling the reporters to go find who the IG was that had a negative report about him.
Tell me somebody tell Fox News, tell Fox and Friends so that I can watch it tomorrow.
It was so good. And then he found out who it was and then fired him. He has no idea what's going on inside of his own administration. It's great.
I don't think he knows what's going on daily.
It's so real. And the other great thing about it is with the coronavirus intelligence reports that he had been getting. And I know you hate these, Chris, but it's those anonymous sources within the administration were saying that Trump was blaming a particular member of his administration for not telling him how bad this was going to be, right? So it's not Trump's fault. Someone just didn't tell him that it was going to be bad, so he didn't know.
To be fair, it's never Trump's fault.
Never. It's not once.
Yeah.
Ever Trump's fault.
It's never Trump's fault.
He was blaming this individual, and there were a ton of other sources within the intelligence community saying, we've been telling him how bad COVID was going to be for months, and our biggest problem is that when we're briefing him, we can't keep his attention. He just drifts off and starts talking about random shit like space junk, and he can't stay focused on actual issues that are going to impact the country.
To be fair, they're not putting enough pictures and saying Trump enough in the reports. So that's their own fault.
That's their own
That's
fault.
their own
and that's
fault.
what they've had to
More
do now.
pictures, more starting your sentences with Mr. President Dr. Trump.
And that will just get him going.
Then he'll pay attention.
But if you say anything bad about him not paying attention, he'll fire your ass. So watch out. Drain the swamp. Which I think the greatest thing about his replacement of the deep state is that he's just switched out the deep state with Trump nepotism.
Right.
So he's broken the executive branch and filled it with people who don't know how a government runs, including him. So it's now just a bunch of political appointees and relatives and friends of relatives who are in these very high up positions within the departments of the executive branch. And they don't know what it does.
To be fair, Bill Barr knows how the executive branch works.
Bill Barr does, and he also knows how Trump works.
Yeah.
So he wants to keep his job.
He
does whatever Trump says.
He really, I think will go down as, of course, one of the most evil AGs, but has to be one of the most effective AGs, attorney generals.
Oh, it's so
or is that attorneys general?
I'm not even going to attempt. I think it's attorney generals.
I don't know. I don't have any idea.
I'll probably get it wrong. When he was asked about that too, because he was like, all right, so with Michael Flynn, you've basically instructed your department to drop charges even though he's pled guilty. How do you think that this is going to look in the history books, right? How you've been acting, where it's not a reformation of the FBI or the FBI's practices. You can say that the way Michael Flynn was treated and charged is inappropriate, but it's something the FBI always does. The FBI is not being reformed. It's Michael Flynn is being vindicated and his charges are being dropped. And Barr's response to that was, well, history's written by the winners, so I guess it depends on if we win or not, which is great. So he's just saying, I don't fucking care. I'm just betting that this Trumpism is going to last, so
Right.
I'll be okay.
Insanity.
It's so good. It's so good. So TLDR, the Democrats keep giving Trump more power, and Trump keeps removing oversight. And drain the swamp, I guess, is what that means. So.
And just the hypocrisy of the resistance, right? I think that's, we keep on hounding on it, but they also just keep on giving us examples.
Yeah.
Of why they're so awful. And it's
Sorry,
amazing that they've convinced so many people that this is the right and righteous path. And it's like, are you even paying attention to daily, which probably most people aren't, right? It's orange man bad.
Yeah.
And that's all we get at the end of the day. Orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. Don't look at what we're doing, right? Just keep on looking at orange man bad. Look at the bad things orange man's doing. Watch us do all these little things underneath the surface. Mainstream media doesn't want to report on it because guess what? They want the inside scoop. They want the Nancy Pelosi interview. They want the Chuck Schumer interview. They want the name your ex-Democratic senator or representative viewpoint on things, right? And you don't get that by saying, hey, look at this bad thing that the Democrats are doing. The media needs the resistance, and the resistance needs the media. And everyone needs the enemy that is Donald Trump. And yeah, again, And I think we do need to have an episode where we have our airing of grievances with Trump, because I feel like, some of our listeners are like, these guys must love Donald Trump or something. Really, I don't. I fundamentally despise Donald Trump and just about everything he's done. But my point being is that he is a symptom of the disease that is rampant in American political institutions. These are things that have been happening for decades, right? The IGs, the Inspector General, these people shouldn't exist. Oversight should be coming from the Senate and the House directly. But that's too much work. They have to raise money. That's what they're there to do, is to raise money, not pass laws, not to have oversight functions, not to do anything that we typically think of a Congress doing. That's not what they're there to do. They're there to make money, and they're there to make contacts so that they can make more money for their individual parties.
Well, and I think the great irony, too, of all of this is that the media gets criticized a lot for their both sidesism that they've been trying to do, right? So it's not like, oh, well, we can't be super anti-Trump and we still have to report on a lot of this crazy stuff because we don't want to see ourselves as being slanted. But I think that with the both sidesisms, they're still dogs chasing squirrels, right? They still miss the overall point of what's actually going down. They still don't report on Patriot Act reauthorization and extension of powers. They just want to report on the crazy thing Trump said, and then the crazy way that Lindsey Graham's defending him, and then the crazy way that Pelosi or AOC is attacking him, and no one's reporting on what actually is going on right now.
Well, it's like, we get 5 days of constant Donald Trump is taking hydrochloroquine, right? Like, that's all that is in the news right now. And, like, who gives a shit what he's taking? I don't care. I don't care. The media shouldn't be telling me what pills to take. The president shouldn't be telling me what pills to take. Only my doctor should be telling me what pills to take, right?
Yeah, there's a point where...
But that's all we need to talk about right now. Donald Trump's taking hydrochloroquine.
Yeah, they allow Trump to dominate this news cycle time after time after time. And it is a choice, but I think it's also a result of the corporatism of the media, right?
Right.
It's what sells. Like, what gets viewers to MSNBC? Hating on Trump.
Yep.
Talking about every crazy thing he said. Oh my God, democracy is being destroyed. All this crazy. Like, no, this is what's going to destroy democracy, is the cycle of Trumpism that everyone is engaging in.
Well, and then, the resistance gets to have a nice little circle jerk.
Yeah.
Look, we're all hating on Trump. Look how stupid Republicans are.
We're saving democracy. And it's like, no, you're not.
No, you're helping ruin it. You're helping destroy it.
It takes every single one of us to destroy the republic. And right now, everyone is engaging in it. And until we can sit there and say, okay, yes, Trump is a monkey. We get it. We've been saying this for 4 fucking years now. We know he's a dumbass. But there's a lot of other shit going on. So maybe we can stop looking at the monkey dance and pay attention to these other things that are actually destroying our freedoms. You know what's not fucking destroying our freedoms? Costco making you wear a fucking mask. Right. That's not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's another great one.
Yeah. Like, and let's attack the right for a second, because these fucking assholes are out there screaming about, like, oh my God, I have to sit outside on a patio when I go to dinner. My freedoms are being destroyed. Why aren't you yelling about the fucking Patriot Act? Why? I will care what you say when you attack what matters. And right now, they're not. They're focusing on the dog and pony show that their representatives are throwing in front of their face. And why are they doing that? It's, don't look at what's happening in the left hand, look at my right hand. Magic trick, woohoo, look what I just did. Coin disappeared, right? And they are not paying attention to what actually matters and what their reps are actually doing. And it's why both sides, whether you're just crazy pro-Trump or crazy anti-Trump, are a joke if you cannot think critically past the mainstream news cycle. It's terrible. we're coming up on time here, Chris.
All right.
So unless you had any last words, we can jump into what are you consuming.
Nah, let's do some consumption ingestion.
You got any consumption recommendations?
Let's get into the materialist corner. So
Let's do it.
last night I watched the 1990 late 90s high school classic 10 Things I Hate About You. Heath Ledger, Julia Stiles, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I mean, just it's based off of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. I forgot how phenomenal that movie was. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's on Disney Plus right now if you have a subscription. Definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't watched it or haven't seen it in quite some time. It just holds up, dude. Great film.
That is an interesting recommendation. I'm going to make a weird one, and I'm not proud of this. The new Amazon Prime series Upload.
I don't know what this is.
So it's kind of a comedy about a guy. He's 27, he's a coder, and he dies unexpectedly, and he gets uploaded into like virtual heaven, right? So everyone who dies now, it's kind of what we're currently working on, uploading someone's brain into a computer.
Right, yeah.
They get
Isn't it some
uploaded
like
into a
Russian
computer.
oligarch who's really steamheading that?
I believe so, but I don't know enough to actually accurately talk about it. But it's actually pretty funny. Like any Prime series, it has really annoying moments where like someone gets a delivery and it's a Prime package. I'm like, stop dropping your bullshit into this show.
Typical
you son of
Bezos,
bitches.
dude. Typical Bezos.
It's so Bezos, but it's based
They
on a book,
only
and the
shop
book
at Whole
actually is pretty
Foods.
funny. Yeah, it's just stupid stuff like that, but it makes fun of a lot of these corporate mergers that are happening. So the person that's trying to create the download, where you can clone a human body and then re-download their psyche, is Oscar Mayer Intel, which I thought was hilarious.
Like Oscar Mayer
saying-
wieners?
Yes, they said that we can do magical things with meats.
Ugh.
Really tickled me.
Oh my god.
But it has some pretty funny internet humor. I hate that I'm promoting a Prime series right now, but I've been so bored with all television that I'm clicking on anything that looks mildly entertaining, and it did entertain me. So check it out if you'd like. That's all we got today, folks. We appreciate you listening, and if you like the show, please tell a friend. We always love the support. You all are wonderful. You can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/realpolitik. If you are able to donate a few bucks and think that maybe we deserve a $2 donation, we would love the support.
Money me. Me want money.
Money me, please. Money, please.
Money, please.
That's all, folks. We love you all.
Later.